So hi guys, late night Michi again. Hopefully, you can hear me okay and I don't sound too weird or too quiet. This is actually, funny enough, my third time trying to record this audio. The first time I did it, I ended up fucking up and saying a lot of stuff I didn't want to say. And so I'm like, okay, can't use that one. And the other one, for some reason, it was really fucking staticky. So I've done a test. Hopefully this one isn't staticky. So there's a little intro to that one. But all right, everyone, get your tea, get your snacks. This is gonna be a bit of a long one, and it's something that I feel like more people should talk about. You guys know me if you're a fan of my channel, or if you're new. Hi, I'm Michi. I'm an artist, and I ramble about random topics that interest me and art. But I try to stick mostly to art. Now, this doesn't do with art, so this is something I see a lot in a lot of story times, in a lot of just people in general. They never want to talk about the bad times, back when we weren't the best people, and like it or not, everyone's kind of had a either a cringy or an immature or a douchey phase. Sometimes it's all three. It depends on the person. And for someone who's like, oh, I've never, you lie. And everybody at some point in their life, from, childhood to now, does some stuff that when you're older and you look back on, you're just like, oh, I thought that was cool. Oh God, it was so embarrassing. And so this is the time where I fucked up. I fucked up royally, and I was technically an adult. This is also something I want to get into. Now, I personally I feel as time goes on that this is something that, I feel we both parties involved, myself and the other artist, in mention that I've renamed, we were both in the wrong. We were both really immature, but, I was more at fault, I feel like, in the end. And that's because, simply put, I was older. I was older when this happened. So this drama, it was my first time dealing with real art drama that was because of me. I tend to get sucked into a lot of my friends' drama, or other people's drama, or other people tell me issues that they have with people, and then I'm like, okay, well, you should talk to a person about this because, I don't know what you're telling me, we should be telling that person, but blah, 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 blah. And so, the year was 2012 or 2013, I don't remember the exact year, but I remember I was 20 or 21. So it was a magical time. Also, sorry if you hear cars in the background. It's hot in my apartment, so I have to have the window open. But it was a magical year that I discovered a magical website called Fur Affinity. So I'm sure a lot of people must be like, clutch my pearls. She mentioned a furry website. Yeah, I did. Okay, so my main website for art is DeviantArt. And I remember there was a couple of furry artists that I followed on DA that would always talk about a Fur Affinity, and I was like, the fuck's Fur Affinity? I didn't know what Fur Affinity was. And I was doing commissions at the time, but commissions were no way, my main income at all back then. A lot of people seem to think when I talk about my story times of yeah, I did commissions back in high school, people seem to think that I was getting fuck tons of commissions, and even now I'm not getting fuck tons. I get a good amount, but I don't get enough where, every single time I open I close like that, I do usually get at least one order. I haven't been open in a while because yeah, but when it happens, I'm not I was never a all my spots are going to be filled artist, and especially back then. I remember there would be times where I'd be open for months and not get anything. So I was about 21-ish. At that time I was going to school part-time, and I was working part-time at that point, I believe. Yes, yes, yes. I was working part-time, so I was no longer working full-time. I was going to school part-time and I was working part-time. So I pretty much my days were covered. And this was also right around the time when Cody started to live with me, when we started to like move in together. And so you might be wondering like, why is this all important? Trust me, it all comes back. It comes back around. It always does. So I discovered this magical website called Fur Affinity, and I thought it was amazing. I thought it was fun. One of my art friends at the time made a Fur Affinity because they liked to draw the not safe for work variety, and I was learning the ways of the not safe for work, which is sad because my anatomy was so bad back then that when I look back at those older commissions and older pictures I did, I'm just like, but I think that's a lot of artists. Hopefully that sound effect didn't gross anybody out too much. I make noises if you're new here, so be prepared for that. But I started following a lot of furry artists, and I started realizing that it was actually really Fur Affinity, where I saw people making a living off of furry art. And I remember being like, "Oh, this is really interesting." And like, funny enough, like as a kid, I never really had a fursona, or I didn't make a Sonic OC. And which is funny because like I was a huge ass Sonic fan, but I like never made a Sonic OC. I didn't even make a self insert. I know, it's really weird, super weird. But anyway, I'd follow a lot of people, and I would see a lot of people doing this, and I was learning how to draw furries at the time because I had a couple of furry characters, but they weren't exactly furries. They were like technically considered nekomimis, and which I know some people are gonna probably debate me like, they're not all cat people, and it's like I know, but they were pretty much like 99% human with like cat ears and a tail, or dog ears and a tail, blah blah blah, and so I was slowly learning things, so I was taking things from other artists' styles that I liked at the time. I was incorporating it into my own cartoony style, my thick lines, my big expressive eyes, my forefingers, because I always did that, and a couple of other things. And so what had happened was there was this artist that I really liked, and I really admired at the time because they were younger than me, and they had a much bigger following than me, a much bigger following. A lot of people don't seem to realize that I had like a really small following when I first started YouTube, like really small. I remember I was like close to hitting my first 100, or not my 100, my first 1,000 on DeviantArt and Fur Affinity and stuff. And then YouTube blew up, and that networked me through the roof. So thank you, YouTube. You are good for something. And thank all of you guys who follow and subscribe and all that stuff. But this artist had a big following compared to me. And I remember being just shocked that someone younger than me had all this. They were doing commissions all the time. And back then, was Twitch around back then? If they were, I don't think they allowed streaming art, because I know this wasn't on Twitch. But there was also a lot of streaming sites. A lot of streaming sites that weren't Twitch and YouTube. There were a bunch of them out there. There was Picardo, there was Prezi. I think Prezi's one of them. And there was one that I used that no longer exists anymore, thank God. But it's what myself and my friends used at the time. And, we would stream all the time. And this is something else I always tell people. Like, back when I would stream, people would be like, oh, everyone's here. It's like, no, I would maybe get a couple of my friends to watch my live stream. So the most I would ever have in a stream is like maybe 3 people, and usually they were almost always my friends. And so, not there's anything wrong with that, but it's not the glamour that a lot of people think. A lot of people think like, oh my God, if I stream, I either get nobody or I get like 2 or 3 people. It's like, no, that's everybody when you start out. So don't feel bad there. But I was doing things, and so we're going to start here. So the artist I admired, I commissioned this artist a couple of times, And I even got a couple of adoptables from them. Because at the time, when I first discovered Fur Affinity, that's when my adoptable thing really got crazy. I didn't see them too much on DA. They, again, were mostly on Fur Affinity. And there was a thing going around. It's not so much popular anymore, but there were a lot of things going around in that time where, people would go through other people's galleries and look at older pictures at older adoptables, the ones who didn't sell, when the artist was kind of new and stuff, and then they would be like, oh, is this still available, and blah blah blah. So it was kind of I don't want to call it scalping because you're not ripping people off, but you're going through old stock that a lot of people forgot about. Because I've had someone do that kind of recently to me, where they were like, "Oh, are these still available?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, they've been years. I don't have those original files. But if you want them, you can get them for the original price. Not a bad thing. But that was a really big thing back then. I know a lot of people did. A lot of people did it with Star Dragons when Star Dragons were coming out around that time. They did it with Sweet Succubi and what were they called? Dreamies? I think they were called Dreamies. I don't remember. It was either Dreamies or no, I'm pretty sure they were Dreamies. I'm like Cottontail. I'm like, no, I don't think Cottontails are a thing. Sushi Dogs was another big one where that was happening. I believe that was happening back then. But there were a lot of things going around where people would do that. And so I went through this artist and I saw that they had one for a closed species they had created. Now, this was my first instance with a closed species that wasn't Star Dragons. So I didn't fully grasp the understanding of closed species. This is important. It will come back up later. Just keep that in mind. So I paid the artist for it, and I loved this character. I loved this character so much. I got so much art of her. My friends loved her. She was so much fun. I loved her colors. It was a blast. So I got in my head, because a lot of my friends at the time too, my real life friends, not my online friends, were like, oh my god, you should make them a partner, because that's what you did back then. Everybody had to be paired up. Ugh. And so I'm like, yeah, and I'll make them be the opposite of them, so they'll look really cute and it'll be all adorable. And so I remember being in my head, and I'm like, you know what I should do? I should still pay, because it is a species someone else created. Even though I'm making the character and I'm doing the art, I should pay the person for the rights, because I had done that once before. There was another adoptable species that wasn't big on Fur Affinity. I found them from my friend back on Gaia, and they were called chrysanthemums or crystal. They were crystal people, pretty much. Not crystal gems, not Steven Universities. They were really cool, crystal monster people. And I still technically have one. And so, I remember I asked them, because they weren't making a lot of them at the time. I was like, oh my god, I really, really, really want one. Is there any way I can pay you? And I can just, make my own art, so you're not wasting your time. And that artist was like, oh, fuck yeah, send me X amount of Gaia gold, because I don't remember how much it was. It was back in the early 2010 era. But so I remember being like, okay, I'll do the same thing here, because I'm being in my 21-year-old mind, I was being polite, So I remember I had already designed my character's boyfriend, and I thought he was really cute and all this stuff. And so then what had happened was, no, I got my timeline wrong. Okay, let me finish this part, and then I have to backtrack a bit. I have to backtrack a quick hot second. I'm so sorry. I'm kind of in the zone, and so I'm not really looking at my notes, and I'm being bad here. So anyway, I messaged the artist, and I explained how I'm like, hi, I know you don't want to make a DOS for this species anymore, but I really, really wanted to make... Now, I didn't let the artist know I had already made a character, but I didn't post them publicly online, so it wasn't here's my character, so the artist pretty much said I couldn't do it. They were very upset that I even asked, even though I asked politely. They were very upset because they explained oh, this closed species means a lot to me, I'm gonna have to say no, because apparently there's this thing going on where they're really special and you can't do that, and so I remember being very angry, and that's because this was my second instance of something kind of happening with this artist. So we're going to backtrack a bit, and I know it's terrible. I'm terrible at storytelling. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. But you know me, I can be a tangent, and my poor paper ASMR has not let me down. I'm just being bad, and I'm not looking at my notes that I wrote down, which I should. So, before this had happened, I had already commissioned the artist a couple times. I'd gotten the adoptable of this character, but the artist messaged me. They messaged me first, and I remember being like super excited. I'm like, oh my god, they messaged me. What does this mean? You know? And they were really rude in their note. I do remember this. And they were explaining how they spent a lot of time on their style and a lot of time on making their stuff unique. And it's really hard to do that in the furry community. I don't consider myself a furry, so I didn't fully understand it. Again, this is one of those, like, even though I was 20, I wasn't an adult. I wasn't mature to this topic. So, you know, they explained to me, like, okay, you need to change this certain thing about your style because it looks exactly like mine. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is where I'm saying, you know, this is where I was wrong. I did take a part of that person's style and put it into mine, but it was such a small thing in a furry drawing community that I remember when this happened, I compared it with my friends, and I was like, is this the same? And they were like, no, it's not the same. And someone can't own that. And it was something very small, and trust me, it wasn't something like eyes, it wasn't something like, you know, coloring, it wasn't something like inking, it was something very minute. But I did take from it, I did, you know, and I admitted it, and I explained that, oh, I'm sorry, you know, I didn't realize that was a bad thing, because I didn't. And funny enough, I had some friends in my real life who would copy other artist styles all the time. They would post it online too, but they didn't have a big following. But they never claimed it was their own style. It was always like an interpretation or an inspiration or something. So I didn't know that was a bad thing. I seriously didn't. I thought that, like, well, a lot of people did. I'm like, well, you know, how many people draw in Disney style? How many people draw in Adventure Time style? You know, how many people like draw art in those styles? So, you know, copying someone else's style, it's not a big thing, I thought. I didn't think it was a big thing. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't steal from this one artist, because they did have a very distinct style. And their art was really good. This is another thing in this is, you know, I'm not going to say their art was shit, because it wasn't. It was really good, high-quality art to me at the time. And even now, they still have really good, high-quality art from the few bits I've seen here and there. And so they explained that. I changed it. It did bother me, because I thought it was dumb. I didn't tell them that, but I thought it was dumb. My friends were on my side, which, again, knowing what I know now, I shouldn't have done that. You know, and there are also things I've known now, as I'm older, where you can take things from other styles you enjoy, but you have to make it your own. And I thought that I thought at the time I was, and I wasn't enough. And this is where people must be like, oh, so this is very fucked up. No, I was so much worse. So that had happened. Then the adoptable thing happened. Now with the adoptable thing, I got pissed. I got right pissed, because I didn't understand why I couldn't just buy it. I you know, I had marked at the time, but it was on a huge hiatus back then. I wasn't into storytelling at all. I was into reading a lot. I was into working a lot. I was spending time with my boyfriend, who's now my husband. You know, I was hanging out with my friends. I was you know, saving up to do things. I was getting more commissions now that I was in the furry community. You know, and so I'm like, life's pretty good. Why is this one artist that I like? How dare this artist that I like not take my money to have me do all the hard work? That was my thinking. That was my thinking at the time. You know, and I'm like, I'm 20 or 21, because I don't remember how fucking old I was when this was. But, you know, it's like, I'm an adult. They're not an adult. Well, they were. I was being a dumbass. And, you know, and I remember I was talking to, like, Cody and a couple of my other friends, and they were all on my side. And so then the adoptable thing happened. So, this is where I went wrong. So, I ended up where I kept the character. The one I had made that I didn't pay for, that wasn't my original character. Now, I didn't post them publicly online. I didn't. The other character. I posted my other one, the adoptable, online, obviously, because I already had. But I had this friend do a couple pictures that they were very proud of at the time of my adoptable that I paid for and the character that I didn't pay for and the artist didn't want me to have. And I forgot to mention to my friend, don't post this online, because this is one of the friends that I didn't tell. I didn't tell them about the drama. And they posted it up publicly online. And they tagged the artist who made the species, because that's what you do when you're being proper. Like whenever I draw any sort of star dragon or closed species and I know the original creator of the species, I always make sure to credit it. I always make sure to put it in the description or the tag. I make sure to do my due diligence there, you know, even back then. And so the artist obviously found out, and the artist was so pissed at me. And we had some very angry messages going back and forth to each other, and it ended up being such stupid drama. And I was getting so pissed off about it. And this is where I'm saying I fucked up. It wasn't my species. I shouldn't have made that other character. Now, me living the way I am now, I never would have done. I would never do that now, because I just think I'm like, shit, that's like someone making, a fan character of something that I care a lot about, and then I find art about it like in a really creepy, sneaky way later. It was douchey. It was douchey. What I did was douchey, and technically by law, I was an adult. Mentally, I wasn't a fucking adult. And who knows? 10 years from now, if I'm still making videos and stuff like this, I'll look back at myself now and I'll be like, ew, I thought I was being all mature and talkative. I was gross. Because that's how I think of my younger self. And I think that's how a lot of people think of their younger selves. So, remember how I mentioned the live streaming thing before? So, this character that I loved, the adoptable, I grew to hate. With all the drama going on, every time I looked at him, I just got angry. I thought of all the drama. I thought of how stupid it was, because I was like, well, I'm in school and I have a real job. Yes, I had that mentality back then. And I'm like, and I'm getting more commissions. And, some people are saying my art's better than the artist. And I was letting it go to my head. Again, I nowhere had a following. And this is also why I'm so happy back then that I didn't have a following. Because, a lot of people like me now, and a lot of people, say some very nice things about me that I'm very flattered by. But again, I'm very ashamed of my past. I am. But I admit that it happened, and I admit that I've changed and I've learned from it, because that's being an adult. Sorry for the voice cracks, by the way. Ooh. But, so I was doing a live stream. I had maybe 3 people in it, again, and they were all my friends, and I was miking at the time. I also, never mic'd live streams back then, but, I was angry. I was heated. Cody wasn't there to, talk me out of it. It was a bad time. And so I was venting my frustrations, and I was being super passive aggressive about it. I was in this live stream, I was redesigning the character just to prove point to I don't know. This is how I'm saying I was being petty and passive aggressive. Was I was going to be oh, I'm going to take this character's hairstyle and I'm going to turn it into another animal, so it's not a part of this closed species. And then I'm going to send it to the artist and be like, there, I changed it, and now it's mine. And it was super childish and petty. And I still think about it sometimes where I'm like, God, I was such a fucking idiot. I shouldn't have made the character in the first place, because it wasn't my original species. I shouldn't have gotten art of this character that didn't belong to me, technically, and this adoptable I had, and have other people draw it for me. And then I shouldn't have been arguing with the original artist of the species, because it was their species. I had no right to try to argue with them on my feelings about it. I didn't know this artist personally. I didn't know what that species meant to them. Maybe it means something really, really deeply. Like I have some now that mean a lot to me. It's one of those things where you just don't think at that time. I didn't have the emotional maturity to be doing what I was doing. And so I was venting and I was saying some horrible shit in this live stream. And my friends in the chat were saying some horrible shit in the live stream too. It was bad. Bad all around. It is probably my most ashamed moment that I've ever had was that stupid live stream. And I had later found out that the artist was creeping in my live stream. They'd been stalking me, and I didn't know this. They'd been well, not in real life, obviously, but they'd been stalking my social medias to see if I would talk about it or do something. And they were stalking me the whole time. And this is also a moment I'm not happy about. So they were stalking me, and they were obviously very upset. I would have been the same way. I would have been the same way if I had found a live stream of someone shit-talking me, with a bunch of people in the chat also shit-talking me, and going through all this shit, and being super passive aggressive and really petty and being just disgusting. I honestly feel like that's one of my most disgusting moments I've ever been. And the second I got caught, I flipped a switch. And I tried talking to them, and my stupid mind thought that everything was worked out after being able to actually talk to them through my microphone, through text. And the artist was kind of playing along too. I say playing along because right after the live stream, something happened. So all this was going on, and I still feel so bad of how fast I flipped my switch being caught, because I was, even though I was a damn adult, I was like, I got caught. I need to try to kiss ass, pretty much. I need to kiss ass, because I was still angry. I was still very much angry, because I still didn't understand. I didn't understand the whole point of this. And so, end the live stream, delete the live stream, and then I go to my messages to delete the little notice that I would post up, because I posted up, live streaming, and I saw that the artist made a journal during my live stream where they screen capped my live stream and the chat. Remember, I wasn't typing in the chat because I was venting, and they were posting all of this stuff and being like, oh my god, can you believe this person is saying this shit about me? Look what's going on. And I was so upset. Because I had just pretty much kissed this artist's ass. And I was doing all this stuff to, make the artist feel better, and and which, again, I wasn't. I was being passive aggressive, and I was being petty. And so, that happened, and that was my karma. I shouldn't, if I had live streamed it, which I shouldn't have, it should have been a private live stream to just personal friends. I shouldn't have posted links about it. I shouldn't have been openly miking and venting about my issues. I really shouldn't have. And I should have been moderating my chat. I should have been. These were all extremely immature, extremely foolish, and extremely cringy things I did. Let alone make a character that I literally didn't fucking care about, because when I redesigned that character, I hated what they looked like now. The whole issue made me just hate these characters. These characters that I had loved. And that was it. I'm lucky that call-out post didn't go viral. I don't think a lot of people even saw it. They eventually deleted the journal, and then there was nothing. I still watched them. They still watched me, and I felt like we were doing this weird kind of fucked up game of tag. This is what I thought at the time. This is where I was saying I even had an ego, which was also disgusting. I had no right to have an ego. I was being a douche. Now, granted, the artist was also overreacting a bit, especially with how the drama ends. But, you know, I was being extremely immature. I was being extremely childish. I was being super shameful. Like, again, I'm ashamed of who I was. And so, a few months pass, and nothing. We're still playing this weird stalker tag where I would see that they checked my pages at least once a day, and I'd check their pages at least once a day. And then I had posted up a picture of two of my characters at the time that are characters I also no longer have. I gave them away. But, and they were these, like, cute little characters in a generic anime pose, because I was anime trash. And then I got a note. Or a message. It was technically for Affinity. I got a message. Sorry, I'm still used to DA. And I remember just, like, seeing the title, seeing who it was from, and just my blood was already boiling. I'm like, oh, great. More drama. What's going to happen next? And so I opened up the note, message, whatever. I opened it up, and I read it. And I don't remember everything it said, because like I said, it's been years ago, but I remember clear as day, there were the words, "You are subconsciously copying from me, and I'm not going to stand for it anymore." And then when I went to reply, because I was heated, I was so angry. It was like, oh, first they get on me about this style thing that wasn't, I need to emphasize, I know I'm being vague, but I wasn't copying their style. I was copying an aspect of their style within my style. It is different than full-on style copying. Just putting that out of the way now. I had the adoptable thing. I had them creeping in my fucking live stream. I had the weird stalking tag we had with each other for months. You know, I was so heated. I was so done. I was so done with this stupid petty shit. Because I remember being like, I'm going to school to be a teacher. Yeah, like what happened there, Michelle. You know, I'm working part-time, you know, making my own money. I'm living with my boyfriend, and he's got a really good job, because at the time he had a really good job. And, you know, and I'm like, oh, and my family's doing better, and I'm like hanging out with my friends more, and I'm an adult, and, you know, like, how did it, like, I was being horrible. Oh, I was being super bad. And I couldn't reply. I couldn't reply to them because the artist blocked me. And the artist blocked me everywhere, on every platform. Even platforms I didn't even know they had. And they blocked me everywhere. And I remember just being like, I've been blocked. I've never been blocked before, because I never did. And I had never blocked anybody. And so, petty, stupid, childish Michi blocked the artist back. And that was it. Never heard from the artist again. For about a year or so after, I caught one of, like, their friends that they were openly, like, very much friends with, kind of checking on my pages here and there. And then it was nothing. And that was it. That's where it ends. But, and this is where I want to get into it. So, to this day, because when I was talking about this video and wondering, and I wanted to, like, go check on things, and that artist still has me blocked on everything. And I don't know if they just, like, don't remember what happened, but I mean, it was pretty heated, so I wouldn't know. They probably do remember, but maybe they blocked a lot of people because they were pretty popular. And so, also, I know it's the end of it, but please, don't try to find out who this artist is. Don't try to backtrack into my stuff. It's old drama. And I'm not bringing it up now to be like, yes, my followers, go attack this artist that belittled and embarrassed me all of those years ago, like the good little followers you are. No, I'm not asking that, and I think that's dumb. I think that's petty. And so, the reason why I'm making this video is because this was back in 2012 or 2013. It is now 2019. About 6 or 7 years ago. A lot of people are arguing that that's not enough time to change as a person. That, you know, things you said 10 years ago are still the same person you are now. And it's not. While I was an adult, while I thought I was mature, I wasn't. I was terrible. I was super immature. The artist, they didn't handle it too well either, but I had hurt them first. I had fucked up. I had done a lot of stuff I shouldn't have done. And I still think about it every now and then. And I do. I really do. Because with everything I know now, and the person I am now, I'm nowhere near that person that I was all those years ago. I've learned so much since then. And I've changed so much since then. And a lot of people might try to debate me and argue like, oh, well, you can't, no. No, I did. Now, just because I was 20 and legally I was an adult and legally I could go to jail, I wasn't an adult. I was still very much a kid. I had gone through a lot that I thought matured me, and it didn't. I thought I had some really good friends, and I didn't. And it just became this cycle of people telling me that I was in the right and that this other person's being stupid, that this other person is wrong, when they weren't wrong. They weren't. They really, really weren't. Overreacted a bit? Yeah. But were they wrong? No. Here it was where this was an artist that was more popular than me, and this younger artist came along with a skill level, in my mind at the time, a lot under theirs. I really felt like I was under their art, you know? Especially because I was like still refining my own style, and I was trying to figure things out, and I was trying to just get better. And it's sad. It's sad thinking of the person I was, because, you know, I think if I had met someone like that now, I would be upset. If one day there was a person that commissioned me, adopted from me, you know, was a fan, and then one day I found they made their own marked character or their own marked story that was literally the same thing, but only slightly different. You know, or ticks and turns, you know, tomato. And then after already making it, then they asked me like, hey, I already made this character and did a little work. Can I pay you? Because at the time, I'm going to be honest too, at the time, I wasn't going to pay a lot. Because that Gaia gold thing didn't technically cost me any money. So I didn't have a real value. I remember being like, I'll pay like $5. That seems worth. Like, that was like in my mind how much I was going to pay. Because that's how much I paid for the original Adoptable. That was really, really old at the time. And so, you know, not only was I taking someone's idea that they worked hard on, not only was I willing to pay them shitty money for it because I didn't understand copyright and I didn't understand that sort of thing. And I had people telling me that I was in the right. And so I believed I was in the right. And then, you know, as I got older, as I realized more things going on, as I saw how things were changing, how I saw how my art was picking up, you know, school wasn't really working out for me. I was having a hard time with work. I was going through a lot of stuff as I got older, and I suffered a lot. Am I saying that you suffering going through this is all because years ago you stole from an artist and you know, you, even though you did all the artwork and you designed the character, you still stole someone's idea? No, I'm not saying that because that would be foolish. But it did change me, and it did make me realize, like, again, in that stupid I got caught moment, in that moment's when I realized I shouldn't have been live streaming this. Because I shouldn't have. That was terrible. That was a terrible idea. I totally shouldn't have done that. But at the time, I didn't think of the consequences. I didn't think they'd be stalking me. I didn't think this would be going on. I didn't think that, they'd make a blast page about me. I didn't think that they would do all this stuff. And then it's like, it's why I'm making this. I'm making this now, and I'm talking about it because there's a lot of people who, they're ashamed of who they were, and they try to bury it. They try to forget who they were. And I think that's why in today, time I'm making this, a lot of people are trying to ignore really bad things they've done in their past. They're trying to be like, well, if I just don't talk about it and don't acknowledge it, it'll go away. It'll go away. Didn't happen. And that's not how the world works. It's not. And I am truly sorry for who I was back then, for how I handled that drama. Because, again, even more thinking of it now, I was older than the artist I was doing this to. That's also a big thing that upsets me, is I'm like, wow, I was the older person here. Not by much, but I was still older, and that's not right. Who knows what they were going on in their life? They didn't know about mine. And I still did all that douchey stuff, and this lasted almost, a year and a half at this time when this drama was happening. And I've been in art drama since, obviously, but to me, never to the extreme as that. And I wanted you guys to hear it from me, because I feel like not enough artists admit when they fucked up. And I'm the kind of person that, when I mess up, and I've been proven I've messed up, and I've realized I've messed up, I will say I'm sorry, because I mean it. And I would have learned from it, which I did. I learned a lot from that drama I went through. I learned a lot about growing up. And then when reality hit me, and then all this stuff was happening, and, I've been on my own, and I've been doing things, I think about it still, because I'm like, wow, I thought I was handling it so well when I wasn't. I was being a child. Legally, I was an adult, but I was being a child. And that's something that other people on the internet need to understand, is that just because someone's legally an adult doesn't mean they're an adult. Just because, someone says some really fucked up stuff when they were young, does that carry over to them when they're 50? If they haven't changed, then probably. But most people do. It's something I totally believe in. I believe people can change as long as they learn from their mistakes and they move forward into being a better person, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be a better person, be a better artist, and apologize. If for some reason, somehow, you find this, you know who I'm talking about, I am sorry about what I did. I do feel like we both overreacted, but I started it. And I shouldn't have. And I'm sorry. And I hope that this starts a trend for other artists out there to start taking responsibility for things they've done in their past, if it has been bad, because to me, I do still consider this really bad, like I've said. And I'm rambling, but this is a long one, so I hope you guys stuck around here. So, as always, guys, I will see you next time. Bye.